He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. They're not listening, Harry. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Harry's made plenty of speeches in his life. That's what comes of being a prince. One of the things that you do as part of the idea of service is you turn up at events, you say a few words, you might crack a gag, and then you receive the applause and you sit down again. Invariably, somebody's written the speech for you, so it's not particularly difficult. And he's done this numerous occasions. I'm not sure how good an off-the-cuff public speaker he is, but despite his cerebral challenges, we know that he can read. And hitherto, it's not really been an issue with regard to Harry when he's made a speech. He certainly hasn't been afflicted by the same level of beigeness that his wife operates by, whereby, as I regularly tell you, she can send a glass eye to sleep. We've many instances of having to endure the ridiculousness of the tripe that pours out of her mouth. Well, it would appear that having spent too much time around her, that it's impacting upon Harry's ability to issue a speech and also the audience. A little bit of footage exists showing when this one's wife and Harry were at a dinner with the chairs labelled Duke and Duchess, as Harry was there to make a short speech in relation to Invictus. For once, we didn't have to hear from this one's wife, which I'm sure many people were delighted at, but it was the ginger one who was getting up on the podium and talking about, well, something not particularly meaningful, but not awful. Let's have a watch of what he had to say.
Sports is a unifying tool that can bring physical and mental healing.
When I think back to the past 10 years and think about the different Invictus Games that have been run in countries all over the world, there are some significant moments that stand out in my mind. Beginning in the United Kingdom with the UK and USA wheelchair basketball and wheelchair rugby. And then in Germany, when we were gifted with the presence of Team Nigeria, who danced on stage better than anybody else.
Oh dear. Well, you're clearly such the main draw, Prince Harry and this one's wife, that the assembled individuals were absolutely thrilled and delighted to hear what you had to say, so much so that they spent their time talking through your speech, which of course is rather rude. But it does demonstrate that the Sussexes are not held in the high level of esteem that they think they are, that when they turn up and a speech is being made by Harry, people talk throughout it. It's at a noticeable volume, and it demonstrates that they're not listening and they're not interested. Indeed, as the camera cuts around the room, you see that it alights on a group of soldiers who appear to be finding the whole thing rather amusing, thinking, what's the dickens is he wanking on about? But at least we're going to get a free meal out of this, so I suppose there's some good coming of it. After all, money that could be spent on our accommodation is being spunked on ferrying these two apart and providing security. I might as well get a decent bit of scran out of the process. Harry, of course, perks up at the end when he receives a bit of applause as a consequence of something he says, undoubtedly relieved. But you'll notice that he stumbles through the course of the speech also. Clearly the fact that not many people are listening to him, impacts upon him. Would he learn from this? Would he think to himself, it's rather unfortunate that people weren't listening? Most likely he'd be irritated by it. As for this one's wife, she would probably offer him public support. Don't worry, darling, I thought you were great, as he's in a respite period. But while she sat there watching him, it's problematic for her. He is an extension of her, and the fact that people are not listening to him reflects badly on her. Therefore, her narcissism would need to cause her to jettison him in that instant, basically saying, oh, he's not with me, I don't know who he is. Now, whilst on the face of it, that seems somewhat preposterous, she would behave like that, basically saying, well, it's your problem, you need to brush up on your public speaking. When he comes back to her, the facade management occurs, the need to assert control over him. She may well be sympathetic. She's unlikely to start scolding me in public and saying, that was a shite speech. You're stumbling over your words. No wonder nobody wanted to listen to you. You're going to need to raise your game. That'd be problematic because, of course, Harry would react badly to that and other people around them and may well witness that exchange, which isn't going to go down well. Instead, she's going to be supportive in that public situation. There is the possibility, of course, that privately she would use it to bring up the past. Thus, if he threatens her control later on in that day, for instance, upbraiding her because she's taking too long in the selection of outfits and the application of makeup, bronzer, etc., she may well turn around and say, well, it's me that they're waiting for, not you, Harry. After all, nobody was particularly interested in your speech earlier today, were they? And, of course, that would belie the absence of emotional empathy. The fact that in the course of the event, she may well have been sympathetic to him purely because it's false contrition and it allows her to assert some control over him and to maintain the facade. But once they're behind closed doors, she can bring up the fact of the incidents of them not listening to him and throw it in his face to belittle him. Why? Because it serves her purposes to do so. Because she doesn't care about Harry. She has no emotional empathy for him. And typically the narcissist will give you the appearance of caring in public and then use it against you later, leading the victim to be wholly confused, but is entirely commensurate with the behaviour of a narcissist. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for watching.